안녕하세요. Hi, that's all the Korean I know. I'm sorry. So, hi, my name is Michael Yeung. I'm from Hong Kong, and I love working on the mobile web. So I'm sorry the presentation will be in English, but yeah, I'll be really slow and precise, I hope. So I want to talk to you today about the web and what has happened on the web today and where the web we hope will go in the future. Right? So present and future capabilities. So looking at Chrome, right? Chrome, our browser, just Chrome alone runs on more than 2 billion devices. 2 billion with a B. And that's across phones, tablets, and computers. So 2 billion. That's a big number. But when you think bigger, the web itself is way bigger than just Chrome, right? There are 5 billion devices out there that can access web content. 5 billion. Now, 5 billion is a big number, and it did not happen because of luck. It happened because of other factors, right? That all comes together to make the web so great. So one of the reasons why that is the case and how we're trying to push this is progressive web apps. And Google has been talking about progressive web apps for the past 1 year, 2 years, 2.5 years, right? So this is not new. But I think ultimately with progressive web apps or PWAs, we are trying to push the web ecosystem to be more reliable, faster, and more engaging. And that's really important for us to get a better, more awesome web experience. Now, today I want to talk about, I don't want to talk again about just how great PWAs is. I want to talk to you about what happened over at Google I/O. What new experiences came about as a result of progressive web apps. And one of them is Twitter. You might use Twitter. I use Twitter quite a bit. Every month, more than 300 million users come to Twitter to find out what's happening in the world. And over 80% of these users are on mobile devices. Right? 300 million per month, 80% are on mobile. And Twitter is seeing healthy growth in users on mobile web, so they want to focus on making the experience really great. How did they do that? I'll just walk you through some things that Twitter Lite, or Twitter, the PWA, has done. So with Twitter, the users can launch the PWA from the home screen, right? The home screen, touch on it, it launches full web experience in the browser. Right. You heard Yusuke Utsunomiya-san's earlier talk about accelerated mobile pages, and Bart talked a little bit about that as well, AMP. And Twitter, all the links in Twitter with the web goes out to AMP pages. So it's even faster experience. It loads faster. Right. In Twitter, the web experience, if I can get up, there you go. The user can take a picture within Twitter and post it on the web. So again, the experience is more like native, right? It's a faster way for users to engage with their users on the web. You can tweet a photo. It's fine. And on Twitter, on the web, you can receive notifications. Here I pull down, there's a notification panel, I click on it, launches into the full screen PWA. Right? So that, again, pushing notifications is a part of the mobile web today through the PWA experience. Right? If you haven't already, I encourage you to check out mobile.twitter.com, which is the PWA site, and try it yourself. Now, it is important for Twitter to deliver a fast, engaging experience while consuming less data. And so Twitter created this feature called Data Saver Mode. Essentially, what it is when a user is on low bandwidth, low connectivity network, the videos and the pictures do not load immediately, right? You see there's a load video, load image placeholder. And the user can then load that as they want. So the experience that they've built is, again, more targeted towards the mobile web, mobile phone experience where network is on and off. Right? Ultimately, I think Twitter Lite, the Twitter PWA, delivers all of the key features of Twitter at a fraction of the cost, right? On Android, on iOS, native apps, you have to download the app, which with a framework, with the libraries, that takes a large amount of network bandwidth. Twitter Lite, the PWA, just pushes the CSS, HTML, and JavaScript that is needed, so the amount of code that you need is much lower, as you can see in the graph. And it's not just us at Google or at Twitter saying that is a good thing, right? Like, it's not just us. The users are saying it. And so here you see some examples of people from all over the world saying how they like Twitter Lite because it provides a fast, feature-rich experience on the mobile web, which is what we're trying to get to with PWA. And ultimately, like, all these technical features are great, but what about business uplift, business metrics? And you see this in the metrics. Twitter does. They see a 65% increase in sessions, 75% increase in tweets, and users who install the Twitter Lite PWA onto the home screen, people click on that, there are 1 million more visits from that home screen, right? Which means that users who like Twitter actually like it more from PWA. That's important. So the main message here is that the mobile web is mainstream. There are many more PWAs than just Twitter. Right? For example, travel companies around the world, Expedia, Wigo, GoIbibo, Trivago, all these are big global players, and they've built PWAs. You can try it on your mobile phone. Publishers like Infobay, Forbes, and in Japan, Nikkei, have launched PWAs, right? And Forbes has seen user engagement double since that launch. E-commerce like Fandango, Alibaba have also invested in PWAs. So again, the number of verticals that you're seeing has grown. And even companies that we don't think of as traditional web companies, more native first companies like ride sharing, Ola, Lyft, Uber, have all launched PWA experiences. So the momentum is definitely growing in developers building great mobile web experience. So this example for Lyft, a ride-sharing company in the US based in San Francisco. So here is just a quick run through of what you can do. You can find a ride, click on it, book the ride, etc. And all this happens within the web experience. Again, it's all within the web, within the mobile browser, so there's no download, right? It's a better experience that way. And you can try it on ride.lyft.com, the URL. Feel free to try it. Although you can't really book a ride because you're in Korea, but give it a shot. Forbes, the publisher, saw a 43% increase in sessions per user, 100% double the number of session duration. Right? So again, better experience. Now, Ola is interesting. Ola is the biggest ride-sharing company in India, right? And they saw 20% of their PWA bookings are from users who previously uninstalled the native app. So they don't want the native app. They come back through the PWA. They don't have to download anything, and they get the full, rich experience that is fast and engaging and works somewhat in a low connectivity situation. Now, you might be sitting there wondering, right? So, okay, isn't it just Chrome? Like, what about other browsers? Now, a big part of what makes PWA successful is that not just Chrome is doing it. Other browsers are committed to it. You see here I have logos for Opera, Samsung browser, Edge, Firefox, who are all building elements of PWA at home screen, caching, etc. Just last Friday, Safari, Apple, actually announced that they've begun development work for service workers. So they've begun the ability to allow developers to cache content offline. That is huge. It's one step towards having all browsers being able to support service workers. It's not there yet, but we are hopeful that in due time, Safari will join service worker support for PWAs so that all PWAs that you build can be used by users in all the browsers, in all the phones that they have. Now, I just want to quickly take a couple minutes to walk through again some mechanisms and where this is going, right? So PWAs can be added to the home screen. You already know that. You already know that this is the manifest.json that you have to write to say, put a short name, create an icon, put the color, and that shows up when you launch the full home screen. Now, I don't know if you know this, but there's actually an easier way to build that file that allows you to add to home screen. It's called app-manifest.firebase.app.com. That's URL right here. Feel free to take a picture. You basically put in content, put in metadata like the name of your app, the color, the theme, the URL, etc., and it generates the file for you. You also can upload an icon, and it creates all the different icons for different dimensions for you. It's pretty convenient. Now, we also heard over the past few years that developers want to be able to control when the add to home screen box shows up on the PWA. That is coming. We've heard the feedback, the ability for the developer, you, to trigger the box that says add to home screen, that is coming. And once a PWA is installed, it's very soon, there will be actual Android APKs, actual Android apps from the system level. And so because of that, they will show up in the launcher, in this case. You can see it in Android settings, because it is, from the system point of view, it is an app, APK. When you fire Android intents, the PWA can catch the intent and handle it, just like any other intent. Now, obviously, the list is currently quite limited, but that we think it will grow as time goes by. That PWA, since it's an APK in and of itself, it can participate in Android's intent system. And of course, PWAs, as you already know, can deliver notifications. And on this point, different browsers handle notifications slightly differently. And so Firebase Cloud Messaging, which you might already be using in your Android app, there's a JavaScript SDK for Firebase Cloud Messaging. How do you actually do it, right? How do you actually build your PWA to handle all notifications throughout the different browsers? In this case, Chrome, Opera, and Firefox. Let me just quickly walk you through it. In your index.html, which includes your HTML for your page, right? After you include the Firebase Cloud Messaging SDK, you simply initialize Firebase Messaging in your HTML file. And then on the web, notifications is a permission you have to grant, and so you have to ask messaging.request permission and say, hey, user, can I get permission to send notifications? Hopefully the user says yes. In which case you get a token. The token is granted by Firebase to you that allows you to then use it to send notifications. So get the token. Once you have a token, you can show a UI that says, oh, registration successful, right? Have a switch. Or if you don't get a token, you just say, sorry, I don't have a token, right? Easy enough. Now, the last part is simply after a message comes into the device, you want to handle it. And so there's this method, this handler in Firebase. It's called set background message handler. You set it, and you say that when the payload comes in, when the message comes in from Firebase, from the server side, you say define the title, define the body, define the icon that you want to show in a notification, and show it, show notification. This will then show up on Opera, Firefox, and Chrome. Right, really, really easy. And we want to Firebase wants to make this easier for you as developers to build it. So back to what other things can happen in PWAs. PWAs can launch in full screen mode, right, without the status bar. And that you have, in Android, this is already possible since Android KitKat, right, Android API 19. You can launch a PWA, you launch an app in full screen mode, no status bar. Mostly used for games. Now, in the PWA, there's now an ability to launch in the full screen mode exactly like that, as you can see here. So time for some PWA games if you want to build them. So that's great, but what's next, right? What happens after that? Why aren't all apps PWAs then, right? Ultimately, I think back in a few years ago, we were trying to answer the question, why don't web apps or PWAs feel great on the phone at that time? And the answer, we think, was just that capabilities were missing. There were some things which didn't exist. For example, to make apps load quickly, you need to have service workers to do caching, right? And the same today, where there are a lot of APIs in the web which are coming or have just arrived. I want to bring you through two of them, right? The first one is the media session for video and audio, okay? Now, 70% of traffic on the internet is video. You probably already know that, right? We're in Korea, where streaming is big. You watch a lot of video. 70%, that's a big number. So as web advocates, we want to make sure that we have a good solution for mobile, for media on the mobile web. So there are a lot of APIs we've added to make this happen. One of them is a media session API, as well as other things to do with orientation and full screen. So let me walk you through some of them. If you haven't already, I encourage you to check out this link, bit.ly/PWA media. Feel free to take a picture, which kind of shows you what these APIs can do for media, for web, for video. Right? First, you see that I've installed the application on the web app on my home screen, Biograph, the green circle in the middle. Now I launch it, launches a full screen, nothing, no surprise here, right? This is a PWA. Then, after I launch it, you can see that the branding is front and center. There's no Chrome UI, even though it is a Chrome browser. There's no Chrome UI. And the reason because this is a PWA. You've made it into a full screen with its own centered branding, right? So that is great. Now, notice when I click play, it plays immediately, right? And this is not because there's good Wi-Fi. This was done in a poor Wi-Fi environment. And the reason this could play immediately is because we prefetch, using service workers, prefetch some of the content before. And so you can build an experience such that the first few bytes are pre-cached, are prefetched, which allows for instant playback. Now, if I flip my phone horizontal, it enters full screen mode, and I have certain players. In this case, it's using a Shaka player, which is developed by Google. You can have your own player that can do custom controls like skip forward or skip back 30 seconds. Right? And this is where I think the really important part is the media session API on the web allows you to do things like this. After you hook into the media session on Android, that creates that lock screen or notification panel control. So if I lock my screen, you can see the background poster and the controls directly on the lock screen, and I can play that while I'm driving, for example. So it's really, really helpful and really great. This used to be possible only on just native apps, right? But now Chrome and it's just supporting this feature now. Now, assuming I go offline, as I see in this case, you can see that I can still, again, if I tap play, I'm offline. Again, I'm still playing because in this particular sample, I've built the capability, the feature to cache the whole video offline, to save it. Again, that is done with service workers. There's nothing fancy here. So if I tap one of the videos, there it is, playing back. And all of this awesomeness is happening on the mobile web today. Right? So from installing web apps to your device, paying for things, consuming, watching videos, we're trying hard to make using PWAs a great experience. So that's media session, right? And another thing that comes up a lot is the ability to share on the web. On native apps, we share all the time. But what about the web? What happens there? Now, with the web share API, which Twitter in this case is experimenting, they're trying it out. Websites, web share lets PWAs or websites trigger a share intent on Android the same way native apps can. So when I trigger a share intent on Android, you see this pop-up, right? And so instead of pulling in your own social network scripts to support sharing, it all happens on the browser. So there's no script that you need to download. The platform, the browser, does it for you, which makes your site load faster. Right? So triggering share is very important. It's simple, right? If navigator.share is supported, then just share it. Navigator.share. Give it the title, give it a text, give it a URL that you want to share to, and you're done. And that triggers the share inbox. Share dialog, excuse me. Now, one problem with sharing from the web today is that when you go and try to select a photo, say from here, and you try to put it into the post, you would see an intent dialog like this. Right? Now, I don't know if you guys have seen this before. When I saw it, I was confused as to what camera and camera means and why there are two cameras. Turns out that on my phone, the one on the left is for a photo, the one on the right is for a video, right? And the last one, files, brings you into system-provided file picker, provided system. So if I were to click files, I see this UI. This UI is okay, but the real problem here is that this is actually a different app. It's not my app, it's a different app, it's a file provider app. And so imagine a situation where I try to share, and I click on the files system provider, brings me up this UI, and my phone is in low memory. There's not enough memory on the phone. When that happens, Chrome, which was in the background, might get killed. Right, it might get killed. So after I finish shooting all my pictures, I go back, and my pictures are now gone because Chrome is no longer there, right? It's killed in the background. So because of that, it's not a really good experience. So to get rid of all of that, we made some UI changes in Chrome, where instead of bringing you into a confusing dialog that then brings you into another app, we're now doing these sharing and picking mechanism within the app itself, within Chrome itself. So there's a new UI picker, a new flow, a similar flow, but a reduced, simplified UI. So you as the web developers won't need to do any work to take advantage of it. It's just built into the browser now. So that is where the web is going in terms of features for the user and for developers. Right? What about tooling? What tooling are we doing to help you developers succeed? Now, Bart just now talked a bit about Lighthouse and talked a bit about Workbox. I'm just going to quickly go through them again because I think this is really important for web developers. Lighthouse is an audit tool that lets you as developers figure out how compliant, how good your PWA is when it comes to best practice. You can use it as a Chrome extension and also on the command line, so it should be relatively easy for you as developers to use. Right. On the Chrome extension, this is what it looks like. After you run it, you get a score out of a 100, and which basically tells you, is your PWA or is your website good? How do we define good, right? So there are a few criteria. It has to be able to load quickly on offline or bad connections. The load page has to be fast. You have to trigger add to home screen. It has to be mobile friendly because most users are on mobile devices. So after we do all these audits and checks, you get a score out of 100. You can see in this case, 45 is not really that great. Usually for a good PWA, it's above 80. If it loads offline, there's good performance, if there's at home screen, etc. Now in Chrome 60, which I think now is in Canary, there's Lighthouse, the audit tool, goes directly into into the developer console. So you as a developer open up Chrome DevTools, and there it is. You immediately see the Lighthouse score of your website, of your PWA. Very, very easy. And lastly, so Bart talked a little bit about Workbox. Ultimately, if you are already using serverless workers, you probably are familiar with SW Precache, SW Toolbox, right? Now, Workbox is a development framework we're introducing to succeed as a successor to SW Precache and SW Toolbox. I don't have time to go through the details of Workbox. Feel free to check out the URL, workboxjs.org. It's easy to use. It's all very modular. It allows developers to handle service worker scripts to cache resources to help you do the versioning and caching more quickly and more efficiently. Finally, I want to leave you with this slide. Again, the message today is PWAs, progressive web apps, are mainstream. Right? A lot of partners are building for it. And we hope you will seriously consider the mobile web as a friction-free way to engage with your users. I'll be out at speaker corner. So thank you. 감사합니다.